Difficult. Women. Hello.
Oh, God.
We're kissing, you guys.
We're so close to each other.
We're, just picture it. We are
Sharing them.
an inch away from each other because we're sharing a microphone because we have a guest today.
No.
But before we introduce our guest, we should probably introduce ourselves.
Okay. I'm Katie.
I'm Marie.
We're doing the podcast.
We're in a podcast.
We're inside your podcast, Difficult Women, right now.
Yes, folks, you're listening to Difficult Women Podcast, and we're in a band called
Reformed Whores. You looked
You
at me.
did it.
I guessed it right.
You Did It. Ding dong. Wow, I feel your breath on my face.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do about it.
No, we're just going to keep it going. We only have 2 microphones, so that's why Katie and I are basically kissing, because we have a very special guest today. And we're going to be talking about something that I think
Happened like years ago.
20 years ago. It's still
a
topical.
hot topic. Well, today we have a really special guest that's going to talk to us about this cool topic. And our guest today is Brooke Rogers. Hello, welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Well, actually, we're in your house.
You are in my apartment.
So thanks for having
Gracing my couch. I love having you here.
And thank you for the pumpkin beer.
Yes,
I was saving to open it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh,
I'll actually open mine.
yes.
Yeah.
Party at Brooks.
Woo!
Yeah.
We thought we'd sit around, drink pumpkin beer, and talk about Monica Lewinsky.
Why not? Well, so the reason why we have Brooke on the podcast talking about Monica Lewinsky is she wrote this really incredible article in the Washington Examiner about Lewinsky and the scandal and all that. Brooke is a writer. And she has her own podcast called Exceedingly Persuasive.
Yep.
And what do you guys talk about on that podcast?
We go over, so my co-host is Mackenzie Brennan. She is a lawyer for the New York Supreme Court. And so we talk about news and politics, some cultural stuff, and we kind of talk about it through the lens of the law and like the legal history. And then as a writer, I kind of come with a political, cultural side of it. And we have sometimes very differing political views and stuff like that. So we kind of try to meet in the middle and figure out, what we share in our beliefs and stuff like that.
That's cool. So I wanted to ask you something. So you wrote this article for the Washington Examiner. Mm-hmm. I know you sometimes are on panels for Fox News.
Yep.
And you write for the New York Post too, right?
Yes.
And those are all pretty, like, a little bit conservative leaning things.
Yeah, it's sort of center right.
How do you describe your political position?
It's something that I'm constantly struggling with because I don't really feel like I fit under a certain label. I have some very libertarian beliefs. I have some I believe in universal health care. So there are things on both sides that I kind of take from. Ultimately, I would say that I'm just anti-authoritarianism.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And that's the best way to describe it. I'm not conservative socially or even really fiscally as much as I just think that many of our systems that we currently live under, especially as it pertains to criminal justice and other systems that have been built that need to be reformed or abolished altogether. And that's kind of where I come from. It's more about what I see that I think needs to be fixed. And that's kind of what what we talk about on the podcast a lot too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of us are probably a little bit more, I don't even want to say center. It's not center, but it's just that things are so far one way or the other right now. It's hard for a lot of us out there in America to find exactly where we fall in certain things. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and so the two parties don't work for so many people. And I think that the way that our system has been carved out, it leaves a lot of people feeling unrepresented. And I think that even if you don't identify as centrist or moderate, if you're like me, where you're kind of more politically homeless, you agree with certain things on both sides, but you disagree with a lot of things on both sides as well. Mm-hmm. It's not there are good people on both sides issue. I can see the systemic rot on both sides of the aisle, and what our current system just isn't working for most people.
We had gone to a wedding recently, and we were talking a little bit about Monica Lewinsky, and you were telling me that you were thinking about writing this article. And I think with everyone who lived through the Monica Lewinsky era, I was young. I was very young, but that was when I first learned, really like I could place a face with the name whore, bimbo, slut, tramp. And honestly, like that's what I was brainwashed to believe, that she was the bad guy. And being so young, like that's what I really held on to, and even held on to for a long time. Like even wrote like lyrics of, us being reformed whores.
Yeah.
I've written song lyrics about like, well, the biggest reformed whore we know is Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
And then I was reading up on her, like even Beyonce references her in one of her songs.
She says that, I think she said in an interview that over 40 rap songs have lyrics that reference her. And she comes at that with good humor. I think that she kind of sees, that it is kind of part of her story. But no, you are not the only ones who use her as inspiration for song lyrics.
But so why did you now want to write about Monica Lewinsky?
So there was kind of a double side of this. For a long time, the last couple of years, especially as we've been kind of rediscussing what the balance of power in relationships looks like, and how women previously were treated during these kind of scandals. Monica is kind of the poster child of being the face of a scandal and getting the majority of the punishment and the consequences because she was a woman, and because we don't treat women who are caught up in sex scandals well in our society. The society has started looking back on that scandal differently, and in the last couple of years, more people have started talking about it. And I think that as someone who considers myself a feminist and considers myself, I care about how women are mistreated, and especially how women are held accountable for the actions and thoughts of men. Realizing how poorly Monica was treated and how Bill Clinton got away with his entire image was rehabilitated, it just struck me as incredibly unfair. And a lot of young women I know, women on the right and the left, saw it as well. They saw the witch hunt that was the Clinton affair. And so I think that that's actually something that a lot of women that I know talk about in circles by ourselves, how poorly Monica Lewinsky was treated.
And I think also what's so interesting about the Clinton one specifically is that we love to villainize the right? It's really easy to take this conservative guy who talks about God and all the time, and then, is inappropriate, has an abortion with this young mistress or something, right? But then for the liberals to have to grapple with this notion that, their God, at one point he was everyone loved Bill Clinton, that he is, a sexual predator.
Yes, and that was something that the left didn't want to face for a long time. Democrats really cherished Bill Clinton as this very charismatic, likable, incredibly popular president. I mentioned it in the story, but he actually left office with one of the highest popularity ratings in history. And it's when you look at the contrast of that between how excuses were made for him many, many times, and she was thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. And as a child, she was so young.
And that's actually another reason why. So I've been talking about this a lot personally in groups with other women, and then Seth Mandel, who is he's the online editor at Washington Examiner. He used to be the opinion editor at the Post, so we knew each other. And he reached out to me and said, I have this idea for a story, and I want you to write it. And he said, I think it'd be cathartic for you to write, because it's I'm constantly yelling about this in my private life, so I might as well yell about this for a magazine. And
you got the cover, right?
I did, that cover. And I didn't know that until the week before it came out.
And the article is called Monica Lewinsky Gets the Last Laugh, right?
On the magazine, it's called Monica's Moment, and then online it's Monica Lewinsky Gets the Last Laugh.
Okay,
and
so everybody read it.
Yes, if you want to check it out, it's Washington Examiner is the place where it's published. But what was really important to me when I wrote that was not just that I talk about how the Democrats treated Monica poorly, but how she was used as a political pawn for the right as well. And the right doesn't have clean hands in this at all.
Right.
And so it's, they were gleeful that this scandal broke and that Ken Starr, who was the special counsel in that case, they interviewed her and asked her about incredibly specific details of the affair. And it was having her, she was 24 at the time, describe, I mean, she might have been a little, I think she might have been like 25 at that point, but they were having her describe very intimate sexual acts where they took place, moment by moment, having her walk through these encounters. And they released that report to Congress with the instruction that it should not be released to the public because it was so detailed. And then Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House at the time, the report ended up being released. And the right was extremely excited about this because it was incredibly embarrassing for the president. It was also incredibly embarrassing for Monica Lewinsky, but no one cared.
I mean, that's one thing that really stood out to me, like reading your article, and then I went back and read the article that you referenced in the cut that you had read. And that one of the things that's so upsetting to me about all this isn't just that she was like publicly humiliated, which is terrible, but it was like her entire life was derailed.
Yeah.
And she went from being this, she was saying in her own words was like, I was a smart woman that had promise and I had gotten this job that was really hard to get in the White House and I had all these like opportunities ahead of me, and all of that just like disappeared because of his actions. Really, I mean, yes, she participated, but she was really young and he was her boss and he's a grown-up and he's married.
And the president.
Yeah.
He knows better.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that struck me, so I'm 23, and while writing this piece, I realized that she was 22 when the affair started. She was 24 when the investigation was taking place. I am right in the middle of where she would have been at that time. And imagining dealing with the fallout that she experienced, the humiliation and the, just she got a scarlet letter for the rest of her, up until 2015, up until she kind of started changing the narrative.
Well, one thing that I was shocked at is she said that there's never been a day that goes by that her name isn't in the press. There's every single day they reference Monica Lewinsky and the scandal somewhere online.
Imagine what that
For
Google
20
alert would look like.
years. I know. I wonder if she sets it and like really reads it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, going back to Bill Clinton, some article I was reading, they were saying how he got away with just like being the naughty boy.
Yeah.
Like how men can just be, that little kid, tap them on the hand.
And he's like, call it, he was a 50-something Peter Pan. It's this, he had this boyish charm, and because of that, the Democrats kind of during the Clinton affair, the documentary, there's this one scene where it's some pundit, an older man, obviously, because of course it would be, is talking, he's doing a TV hit. And he starts talking about how, well, the job is hard and the nights are lonely, and maybe he just sees this adoring thing. He called her a thing. This adoring thing who's just there, and she's, it's this, he's explaining away why he was 30 years older than her at the time. And he was explaining away why someone who should know better was actually not at fault. And she was the hussy who lured him into having this affair.
Who then do you blame? Then of course the blame falls on her if it's not on him. The other thing that's so interesting to me about this, because you were saying like, I was trying to remember like, how did I see her and what was my thing with her? And honestly,
you were in DC when it was happening.
Well, and more than that, even beyond that, my mom was working for the government, and she worked in an agency where the boss of whatever the agency was always a political appointee. So whenever the president would change, she'd get a new boss. So it was kind of disruptive, and depending on if she liked her boss or not, she would, be interested in having someone new in office or whatever. But I remember very specifically her talking about how she voted for Bush, and she's very liberal. She was never a Republican, but she voted for Bush because Clinton had such a bad reputation for being a womanizer.
Yeah.
Even as a governor, that she was like, ugh, like all of her female friends in government were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, please not this guy, please not this guy. So he already, like, people knew that he was difficult in that way. And they let him get away with it, you know?
It's not just about the piece itself was centered on Monica and kind of the way society treated her, but it's not just about Monica. When it comes down to it, Bill Clinton had a history of not just sexual harassment, but accusations of sexual assault and sexual abuse. And, you know, that Kathleen Wiley, Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, those women were equally, if not more, humiliated and criticized by the press and painted as dumb, trailer trash, bimbos. These are just women who were after Bill Clinton. And that was the narrative for years. And it wasn't, and the thing is, these women really didn't have a lot of allies because in many ways, the left hated them and the right sort of used them in many ways. And so they really were just kind of left to flounder. And especially with Monica, she... Right after the investigation, she sort of disappeared for a while. She ended up going to the London School for Economics, I believe, and she got a degree in social psychology. And she came back and tried to get jobs. And during that time, she was such a recognizable face, such a recognizable name. And this history had been tied to her specifically. It was the albatross around her neck that Bill Clinton never had to answer for.
Right. So. It's like we knew he did it, whatever, but like, it was, I mean, it's interesting how it was not until that book deal that he was pushing around with that, whatever, mystery.
James Patterson.
Yeah.
It was such a weird book.
So weird.
It was like the president, it's a mystery novel that apparently he co-wrote, but it's just a very weird choice at that point in time to write this book anyway.
And then also he didn't even expect anyone to ask. The Me Too movement's like in full swing, and he's like, "What? You're asking me about it?" It's like you
angry
are not,
when he got caught.
He probably was.
Well, the one thing that I think it was the Vanity Fair article that she wrote when she encountered Ken Starr at Gramercy Park restaurant here in New York, and that she kind of like she confronted him and kind of like the way that she left it open perfectly for him to be able to apologize for her, and he just said it was an unfortunate incident or whatever. And so Ken Starr has never apologized. Bill Clinton has never apologized to her.
Yeah, he apologized publicly, I think once or twice, but
never to her. Never personally. And it goes back to like she's apologized every single day since the incident. She regrets everything. But these men, we had an episode about how women apologize so much more than men do. And that just like was so blaringly obviously that men can get away with fucking murder and never have to apologize for it. And us women, we're so empathetic and compassionate and just aware of our actions and willing to take the fall for it too.
Sometimes not even necessarily willing, but we're always the scapegoat.
Right, we're expected to take the fall for it. Yeah. And I think that something that really hit me when I was researching this is that it wasn't just that he was a Democrat and he was likable. It's that our society genuinely thinks that in situations where there's an affair, especially with a married man, the woman is always at fault. That's our society really truly believes. And it goes back to like this boys will be boys rhetoric. It goes back to like even when I was growing up, it was you need to be careful about what you wear so you don't lead boys and men astray. It's even like goes down to like how short was her skirt. Women are expected to, women are held accountable for the thoughts and the actions of men in our lives so much, and that extended to this. It's society thought that she was responsible. Even there was an interview with Bill, not an interview. It was on Bill Maher's show, Politically Incorrect. He said, "I think Monica should be the one to apologize for this. She's the home wrecker. She's the one who blackmailed the president," which wasn't true. Oh, yeah. And it was, but that's Bill Maher, and there was these very well-known people on the left who now would probably consider themselves feminist allies, railroaded her because that's just how society saw her at the time. She was a homewrecker. She was a bimbo. It didn't matter that she was 23. She was at fault.
Right.
So,
It's interesting too how then I think in that Cut article they were also talking then beyond into like how do we reckon with all this Me Too stuff now too, especially as like liberals and conservatives or whatever. But that whole thing that happened then with Al Franken, how then you can't win because on the one hand there's a lot of fault on liberal women for not stepping in at the time and protecting Monica and saying like, wait a minute, like you're the one that is having an affair on your wife, not her. And a lot of liberal women also got angry at Hillary because then she was standing by her man, and then that got very complicated. But then when Kristen Gillibrand steps up and says, hey, we have to hold everybody accountable to the same standards, then everyone's mad at Kristen Gillibrand. And it is very, all these men have gotten us into such shitty positions and it's getting so messy and we just have to do some housekeeping, I guess. But like, I don't know. I mean, and I feel like weird about it. Even the Al Franken thing I feel really weird about because I think he kind of fell on his own sword too there. And
well, it was right during when Roy Moore was running for Senate and people were comparing apples to oranges because obviously the allegations against Roy Moore were much, much worse. Right. And I think that Al Franken sort of became a sacrificial lamb, even though I disagree with what he's accused of doing. And I think that, he should have known better. There is a point where the Democrats needed to prove that they were not like Republicans and they wouldn't let him get away with it.
But then we lost this great fighter, It's really hard. I mean, what a messy... Yeah. And it also reminded me then of like Hillary's campaign. Like Bill messed up Hillary's campaign too, because then when all the stuff came up about Trump and his like sexual whatever, she's defending her husband who's done some of that stuff too. And like how it's so messy.
Right after the grab him by the pussy tape came out, President Trump during a debate, I don't know if you remember this, but brought Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones to one of the debates and sat them in the front row. And that was incredibly pointed. He's basically saying, my hands aren't clean, but hers aren't either. And even though she did not do that because she defended her husband, she was seen as equally culpable. And that's another, it's another double standard of, she's saying she's this champion for women, but she criticized these people and during the 90s. And I do think she handled it poorly, but ultimately
she was also in a lose-lose situation because like, what was the answer for her on that?
Being married to Bill Clinton is a lose-lose situation.
I do wonder who Monica Lewinsky voted for. Do you think she had voted
2016?
Yeah. Do you think she voted for Trump?
No.
Or Hillary?
No, I don't think she voted for Trump. She may not have, personally, I think that it's much more likely that she just didn't vote. She may have voted for Hillary, but just knowing her politics, like even during this scandal, in the middle of it, she didn't want him to be impeached. She protected Bill Clinton for a really long time and tried not to cooperate with investigators because she was worried that he would be impeached. And I think that she was a Democrat first in a lot of ways. I don't think that she would have voted for Trump. And I think she probably would have seen him as a sexual predator who was accused of doing many of the same things. So I don't think she would have. No, personally, I have no idea, obviously, but I don't think she would have voted for Trump.
Well, so Monica Lewinsky, she kind of stepped out of the shadows in 2014.
15 was when she started doing big talks. Yeah.
Okay, and the reason why was because of the college student who killed himself,
Tyler Clemente.
Right.
He was a kid who, I think in 2010, he was caught, his roommate filmed him becoming intimate with another man and posted it online. And he ended up killing himself because of the subsequent internet shaming and, we know how the internet works. And she saw herself in his story and she said that she was talking during her 2015 TED Talk about sort of why she was coming back into the fray, as she put it, was that she was seeing how the internet was being used daily to do what happened to her in 1998. We see these people who have done things that either we think are wrong or are deserving of shame in some way, and we just put them through the ringer every day. There's a tweet that says, every day on Twitter there's one main guy and you never want to be that guy. I think that's like true out the whole internet. Like every day there's a new person who has either messed up in some way or just did something embarrassing, and we just shred them because that's what the internet does. And she saw that becoming more rampant. And she said that in 2010, when it happened to Tyler Clemente, she was talking to her mom about it, and her mom started sobbing because her mom remembered when Monica was going through that, and they had her shower with the door open. They wouldn't leave her alone because they were worried she was going to commit suicide. And then you see it happen with Tyler Clemente. So I think that she kind of realized that her story didn't have to have a sad ending where she just disappeared and was never heard from again. She could take control over what her story looked like and change that narrative and use it to help others and become a positive force. I think that's what she's trying to do now. So
I think but I mean, talk about strength. I mean, because the thing is, I do think about like all that internet stuff and how, your name gets tarnished for this or that or whatever. And my feeling has always sort of been like, you never come back from that. How do you come back from that? But to be able to like come back from it is really, I think gives me a little bit more hope for everybody out there that is on the internet, which is all of us. And if anybody, God forbid, makes a misstep, you know, that there is a chance for some redemption.
No, absolutely. I think that what surprises me is that she has done this with such grace. She does acknowledge that she played a part and that she is sorry for that. But she also doesn't carry around that anger. She carries around a lot of trauma, I think, because of what happened to her, but she's not hardened. She's not cynical. She is extremely gracious and kind in a way that most people who have been through what she's been through might not be. And I think that it's one of those things that makes you want to treat people, strangers on the internet or whatever, with more kindness, and also realize that I actually in a couple 2 years ago I wrote a column about how the culture of public shaming on the internet, it's sort of like throwing gasoline on your neighbor's house fire and expecting it not to reach your door. When we contribute to this culture where there's no grace, there's no ability for redemption, we don't see them as human beings, it builds and it becomes a cycle, and you never know when you or someone you love can end up in that cycle. So I think that if there is a lesson from all of this, it's treating people with some grace, even when they've misstepped, or even when they're going through something like a humiliation like that.
Yeah.
Well, the person that comes to mind right now that is just going through it on the internet, as I was coming over here, I just saw a new thing on Twitter, but Shane Gillis, the comedian who got hired at SNL and then quickly fired at SNL. Do you, as a journalist, have your colleagues been writing articles about him or taking a real stance yet? Or, I mean,
I'm sure that the Post has. I haven't really seen that. I think that on the right there tends to be the thought that you can't necessarily just throw people away because of things they said in the past. I think with him specifically, his comments were extremely recent, and I do think that...
And very, very racist.
Yes, very, very racist.
It's
not like
joke.
10 years ago.
Funny.
Yeah.
It was last year, and it was racist and not funny.
Yeah, so I think that, there is... So, should he have lost his job? Yes. Is there still room for redemption there if he can... What am I looking for?
Apologize.
Yeah, apologize in a way that's actually believable. I know he kind of did, and maybe, there are those who would say that people will never be satisfied and some people won't. But the thing is that like there have to be consequences. And I think losing his job at SNL was a consequence. And then there has to be some kind of sincere apology and show that you genuinely see what you did wrong and you want to remedy that. If you double down, I think if you double down, you're showing that you don't actually think what you did was wrong, and in some ways I think he's done that. I still think he's a human being, and so I think criticizing him and calling him out is one thing, and he should be called out, but also just keeping in mind that just like keeping his humanity in mind. I think that's more of what we need to do when, as we are criticizing people, as we are pointing out that what they've done is wrong, just keeping their humanity in mind and trying to just having a little bit of understanding, even if you are very angry, which you have a right to be angry. What he said was very racist. What he did, again, not funny and very racist. And I think with comedy especially, people think that like political correctness is ruining comedy. But if you look at comedians like Ilsa Schlesinger, sorry, I can't say her last name, Ali Wong, even like John Mulaney, they can be very funny. And, Ali Wong makes jokes about how feminism has ruined everything and she just wants to be a housewife all the time. And it's really funny.
It's really funny.
And it's more about you can be quote unquote politically incorrect. Just don't punch down. Right.
Right.
Just like be funny about it and don't punch down. There are so many ways you can do that in creative ways that don't involve doing an Asian American accent in a horrifically racist way,
Right.
So
it's funny. I was reading an article about someone had interviewed someone else that had auditioned for SNL and had met Shane and all this stuff, and they was just sort of getting some background information about what was your experience with this.
The deets.
There wasn't very much juicy stuff
hot
there.
goss.
But they were then talking about how everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's edgy humor. It's edgy humor." And I loved the comparison that this guy used, because he was like, just making a white straight guy making racist, sexist, homophobic jokes is not edgy. It's not edgy.
Right.
He's like, but what is edgy? He's like, I want to see more of it. And you may not know this reference, but Dana Carvey used to do this, like when he auditioned for SNL. He used this joke with this song. He just started singing this like chopping broccoli. I mean, that is taking a risk. You know what I mean? Like having your chopping broccoli song be your audition song and like getting people to laugh with that.
Yeah.
That is taking a risk. That's being silly. That's being fun. Right. It doesn't hurt anybody, but you're, and that may not be your bag or whatever comedy wise, but I thought that was a good example of somebody like, that's a risk. You know what I mean?
Right.
Trying to do something.
Being creative with your humor.
And
well, so the Shane Gillis thing had got me in a kind of a heated conversation with a buddy of mine about journalism and just how these young journalists, everything is so black and white these days, and that people are taking such extreme stances on cancel culture, and that these young kids are coming out of these fancy colleges with being trained to write specifically one way. And I was like, I mean, I don't believe that. I do think that some articles have come out that are extremely oversensitive. And I do, I think that is up for debate. Where are we headed in journalism right now? And as you are, you're going to be the next big thing, honey.
Well,
you really are. That. You're so talented.
I'm shooting for like the next Medium thing right now, and then we'll work from there. But I appreciate that. Thank you. It's actually my career path has been really weird because I was homeschooled. I ended up doing dual enrollment at a community college for a couple of years, but didn't end up getting a degree because I was only taking classes in what I was interested in, which was writing. And then I moved and I planned on going back to school. And then I got a job in New York. I was basically an intern for National Review. And I got that when I moved here when I was 19 and started doing that. And I kept thinking like, I'm going to go back to school. And I actually got accepted into the political science program at University of Colorado. And I realized I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to take 4 years and go back to school.
Where are you from? Are you from
Wyoming?
Wyoming to New York City at 19?
It was an experience, guys. It was the culture shock doesn't even begin to cover it. But so I have this like very different. I didn't go to journalism school. I don't really know. I know when I talk to kids who are in college right now or just graduated, I can see that it's very clear where our paths kind of took off. So I think they do have a certain mindset, but I think it's unfair to categorize them all as that one. They don't all fit into a box. I'm not exactly sure what that education looks like now, but I do think that a lot of the time, it's not just an age thing either. It's just the way that the 24-hour news cycle works and the way that opinion writing works, and just you want to get clicks. So you may write something that's just the hottest of hot takes that you know is going to get clicks.
Right.
That you have to have something that's fresh and that's different from everybody else. And so I think that lends itself to people being extreme in whatever side they fall on. You know, it kind of, because they want to get an opinion that will get people talking, they might be a little more extreme than they would have 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. It's media is so oversaturated, and it's so based off of getting clicks that
There's a lot
I think
of pressure
that
to
it's
even if the individual writers don't necessarily feel that way, they feel pressure
to
to
kind of hype themselves
spin
up,
them.
you know?
Yeah.
They may have an opinion that was a little bit more nuanced,
Right.
and then you put it in this way that is so extreme.
Right. Yeah. I have a feeling though, because things go in cycles, right? And I just have this feeling that we're becoming so starved for nuance and so starved for something a little more honest and like true. And I think that in the next, 10, 20 years, we're going to see another shift, I think. Where people,
hope so.
Because part of what I think happens too is like in any kind of market, if there's a hole somewhere, it has to be filled. And right now, things are so extreme to the right and to the left that there's this real big hole now in like any kind of centrist or nuanced news feed.
And where a lot of people
there's
fall.
going to be room. There's going to be room for somebody to start some publication that's like, we are the bipartisan news source now, and it's not NPR. It's going to be very, very and it won't be bipartisan in the sense of like we'll have people from the right and from the left. We're just going to have like some regular people being like, I don't believe in
Some dad
this,
from Colorado.
But I do. Yeah, for sure.
Some
I could see it, or even just some like kid from NYU, even it's like super liberal school, just going like, I can't with this anymore because like your political stance right now, what you're saying, I think is. Like we were just saying, it reflects so many more people than we allow ourselves to realize. Yeah. So.
No, I really hope that our conversations can become more nuanced. I think that we are just drowning in these opinions that are really detrimental to just public discourse in general. I think it's really hard for people to admit that they disagree with whatever their side, whatever opinion their side has come up with, that there's whatever stance that they have. It's because it's so tribal at this point that like if you disagree, you're like not being loyal to the tribe. I feel like that's really
no, for sure.
And I think that's just not sustainable. And we see that in how angry people get at the other side about everything, and it's been boiling for a while, but I think it really hit a peak in 2016, and I don't know if that's going to change in the near future. Yeah. You know,
well, it's interesting because that comes back to Monica Lewinsky, where the tribe was really upset with her for speaking out. Then again, in like right before the election, they were like, "What are you doing? You're messing it up for Hillary." It's like, well, wait a minute. We're still back to this square one, which is that her husband is the one that caused all these problems in the first place. Why are you trying to, you're supposed to be on my side.
Yeah. And
see, I was one of the ones that was like, shut up, Monica. You're going to fuck this up for Hillary. I was totally guilty of that. And then I watched the TED Talk and then I'm sobbing in bed and then shared it with everyone I knew of like, wait a minute, guys, hold up.
Yeah.
But
it's that human, like once you see them as human,
right.
And they're not just this caricature that you were taught to believe. Right. It becomes so much harder to be angry, and then you just see it's like this. It taps into this empathy where it's like, how can I? She's just a person. She's just a person who made a mistake when she was 22
years old.
She was a baby, and it just seems like she has been paying for that for 20 years, and he didn't have to. Like I said, her life was just derailed completely, and she was the butt of jokes, really bad jokes, just like really
horrifying.
Yeah.
Just I mean,
Conan O'Brien had some terrible jokes about her.
Oh, Jay Leno was
bad.
Jay Leno was the worst, but they all made jokes about her, and during John Oliver did a great interview with her this year. Which I encourage everyone to watch. It was wonderful, but he actually acknowledged during not during the 90s because he wasn't in the U.S., but like 10 years later, there was a segment, and there was some graphic that was derogatory. I can't remember what it was, but he apologized on the show for that and his part in it, and then did this great interview with her and talked about public shaming on the internet and how that, you know, destroys people's lives and all this stuff. And it was just really, I think that she has become this embodiment of what redemption looks like for so many people. And, you know, I think that you were talking about how you were taught to see her a certain way. And I think she's changing people's minds. She changed your mind. I think she's changing a lot of people's mind of who she is and what happened. And one side of the story has been told all this time. And it was told by the Democrats and by the media. And now she gets to tell it herself.
Yeah. And as a result, she can help change people's minds about lots of different people that are in positions like her, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Gossip. Is she married or dating anybody?
She's not married. I don't know if she's dating anyone.
I'm sure it doesn't help with your dating life either.
Yeah. Which I hope that changes. I think that if she wants it to, but I think that.
Oh, I really want her to be with like Brad Pitt or something. That'd be amazing.
I mean, yeah, if he's
If she like ends up with somebody fucking
good to
hot
her.
as hell and good to her. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be someone good to her.
We just have such high standards for Monica Lewinsky in this house.
I know.
I'm actually getting a cross stitch made that says it's one of those like house memes. Like, have you seen that on Twitter? But it's like, in this house, we love and support Monica Lewinsky. I'm getting that for my apartment. I'm so excited.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I think it did completely derail her love life in many ways. I think that's kind of a side issue to a lot of what she experienced, but it is a side effect. I think that she even I can't remember which feminist author or something at the time in the Clinton affair. She's talking about how she turned on the TV and there was this feminist author who said, "Can you imagine your son marrying Monica Lewinsky?" And she started sobbing. And I think for a long time, because she had such a recognizable name, such a recognizable face, she just wasn't able to live around it. But I don't think she's dating anyone now. I don't think she's married. I know she's not married. But yeah, let's Operation Get Monica Lewinsky a man.
Yes,
or a lady,
Operation
whatever
get
she's.
Monica laid. And actually, we have a way that could help her, like get her rocks off if she wants to. Because I don't know if you're listening, Monica, but we are sponsored by AdamandEve.com. And look, if you want to go to AdamandEve.com and use the promo code HORIO.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yes, Monica Lewinsky, if you're listening.
Yes,
go to AdamandEve.com because free stuff is awesome. But free stuff to spice up your bedroom is even better, Monica.
And you can select almost any one item for 50% off, and then Adam and Eve loads up on the free stuff.
All you have to do is enter code HORIO at checkout and get 10 tantalizing free gifts.
You'll get a sexy item for him, maybe Brad Pitt, we don't know, we'll find out. A special gift for her, Monica, or whoever's listening, and a third item for you both to enjoy.
That's very heterosexual. If you want a gift for her, a gift for her, a gift for him, a gift for him, whatever, it don't matter because you're also going to be getting 6 free spicy movies.
Movies? Oh my gosh, I love watching movies. And also, you can get free shipping, which is like the best free gift there ever was.
Truly. So, folks, I mean, first off, you're welcome. Just go to AdamandEve.com, enter the code HORIO. That's WHOREO. Wow. I hope Monica
Seamless.
Lewinsky goes and uses.
I love it.
Yeah.
Segways are my jam.
Yeah. Wow. Well, truly, this has been unbelievable. And I really do encourage all of our guests to listen to your podcast. Again, that's Exceedingly Persuasive.
It's got 2 X's at the beginning, like the chromosome, because we're creative that way.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And go read all of her articles immediately. If we just Google Brooke Rogers,
You can. I always tweet out my articles. You can follow me. I'm BKE Rogers at Twitter. And if you want to read the Monica piece, it's at WashingtonExaminer.com. Monica's moment. Check it out if you want to.
Do you have any hot story you're working on now that you can share, or?
No, I'm kind of on the hunt for my next hot take, as it were. But
do you have specific things that you're hired to write? about, or
So
are you like
my actual position at the Post is I mostly do like I edit other copy. I write whenever I feel like it, and like sometimes write for other publications as well. But it's usually when I catch something that, so it's often about it's about cultural stuff, usually like public shaming or like women's issues. I write a lot about women's treatment and things like that.
Sex robots. We did one on sex robots. You should do one on sex.
you really should?
What
It's
is going on with those?
It's crazy. You should
Well,
look it up.
they are they guess that in 2050 human beings will be having sex more with robots than actual humans.
So you're
That
welcome.
makes
That's your
me
next-
so
Yeah.
optimistic for my dating life. Excellent. Great.
Well, if you need to go to adamandeve.com,
I will
just
use your promo
the
code for
Warrior.
sure.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. That was so
awesome.
much fun. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And listen to this song now by
By
Reformed
Reformed
Whore.
Whores.
That's us.
That's us. The other night at Cosmic Cantina, I was approached by a man. I tried to hang low, just eating my burrito. He worked on his pickup plan. He was all shit-faced, he got into my space, so drunk he barely could stand. He said, "Cutie, what's new?" And he puked on my shoe. Some behavior I don't understand. Singing hi-ya-yo, there are douchebags wherever you go. Singing hi-ya-yo, why won't they just let me be?
Oh, hey, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it's funny. I had a similar situation happen to me last week.
Well, that's very interesting. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, I'd love to. The other night I went to a disco with some of my close girlfriends. Then before you know, we're surrounded by Guidos. They start to make their descent. I tried to break free when one clung on to me. There was no way to defend. He said, "Hey, what's your son?" Then he slapped my behind. Some guys sure know how to offend. Singing hi-ya-yo, there are douchebags wherever you go. Singing hi-ya-yo, why won't they just let me be? Now don't get me wrong, folks, I like a good spanking. I just want to know where it's coming from first.
Well, that's reasonable. But I gotta tell you something, Marie. You know the worst kind of douchebags? The worst ones are the ones that you know them and you trust them and they seem like real nice guys at first and then they get all fucking douchey on you.
Surprise douche!
Nobody likes a surprise douche.
Wow, Katie, sounds like maybe you got more of a song to sing.
Well, it's funny you mention it because I do. And actually, it's about someone very specific.
Oh, well, don't name any names.
Oh, no, I won't name any names. That would be very tacky.
So
of me.
tacky.
Yeah. Well, just say his name rhymes with pony.
Uh-oh.
I met a boy, said I was his joy. He courted me like a true gentleman. He opened doors for me, he spoilt me, adored me. We spent lots of time holding hands. I started to like him, it got real exciting. He had my heart there and then. Then he got me in the sack and said, "I'm sorry, you can't come back, 'cause my girlfriend, she comes home around 10. Singing hi-ya-yo, there are douchebags wherever you go. Singing hi-ya-yo, why won't they just let me be?
Look at me.
What?
Didn't I just tell you not to name any names?
Well, I thought I was being real sneaky about it.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I got an idea. I'm gonna fix it right now.
Well, this ought to be good.
Listen up close to the moral of my story. Only one of these tales is true. I'll let you decide which ones are lies. I'll just leave that up to you. But here's my advice. Boys, treat us nice. Get yourselves on the right track. 'Cause if you do me wrong, I'll put you in this song. It's my way of getting you back. Right, Tony? Singing hi-ya-yo, there are douchebags wherever you go. Singing hi-ya-yo, why won't they just let me be? Everybody! Singing hi
bag.
Yeah, sometimes.